on W1. I need W2 to do that. So I'm asking to change it from W1 to W2 so I can grow my business in Anne Arundel County. That's about it.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
All right, anyone else? Yes, you go around. Go around.
My name's Conrad Bittinger. I have a piece of property on Solly Road in Glen Burnie. Been in my family since 1972. It was originally zoned G when my father bought that property, which is serious heavy industrial. You could have built a power plant on the thing. And now they've downzoned it and downzoned it. I have a non-conforming for, I'm not sure if it was W1 or W2, but for what I'm actually doing, park my dump trucks and heavy equipment, I got storage sheds on there. I should have C4 to be operating efficiently or 100% legal or whatever. So it's unclear right now on what my zoning is with the non-conforming, but they wanted to downgrade me to residential. There's commercial work, everything around me is commercial and heavy industrial. Got the power plant right across the street. We got Brandon Shores Industrial Park right across the street. And I have woods on both sides of me. There's houses built in the back of me, but they don't interfere with anything, or I don't interfere with anything they're doing. And I should really have C4 to operate properly in what I'm doing. And like I said, it's been in my family for 50 years on Solly Road. Before there were 3 cars a day on Solly Road, it was desolate down there. And I can attest to that because I've been robbed 100 times there. So now that they've built some houses, the thievery has come down, but I've been there longer than anyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll put a map on the area, Telegraph Road area again.
Yeah, I can put a map.
Mr. Williams and I filed an application on behalf of Dewey Homes. Was discussed at committee. And R5 was recommended, and if you recall, to the intersection at 174 in Telegraph. And the 6-acre piece that's just south, right in there, in here, just south of Munson Heights. And across the street, you can see there are 10 townhomes. And then, Andrew, if you go up just a little bit to the north, that's 300 apartment buildings. And then there's a big data center in the back. So on the east side of the road, all of the land is in the priority funding area. On the west side of the road, nobody's in the priority funding area because we don't meet the density requirements that the state has in their definition of 3.5 units to the acre. We asked for R10 and the committee recommended R5, and there was a discussion. We were here and there were some good questions, but we kind of got included in the R5 that went all the way down to the intersection. And we have public water and sewer. We're on an arterial roadway, and there are natural features. That's all the trees here. There's a culvert under Telegraph Road here, SHA culvert, and so there's sort of a wide, shallow, kind of man-made floodplain on that north edge, which does buffer us from Munson Heights. So we did submit additional information in the public comment period, and I don't know if committee members got to review it, but we discovered some new information that we think is extremely pertinent, and I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Williams.
Does he think on the same property?
I think that's the same one. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the
And you've got like 30 seconds, so Yeah, try to
Oh,
be
we
good.
each got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
and we are gonna cover this one as well, so.
Well, the one thing we found out when we looked at R5 is that, you have to have 10 acres. This property is 6.5, about 6.4 acres. You have to have 10 acres in order to build townhouses. So if this property remains R5, you're talking about single family, detached structures, which because of the property's features, you might get 2, 3 in there at most, because you're gonna have to bring a road connection from around here all the way, it's gonna have to come down along the top of these lots here, the floodplain that Shep mentioned is next to Munson Heights. And right on the bottom, you might get a series of 2, 3 linear lots served by long pipe stems to a public road that would have to come about this far. And unfortunately, the development costs associated with something like that means that the property owner is just not going to do it. So what our owner would do is probably just put the property on the market, sell it to someone who's looking to buy a 6-acre piece where they can build a house in the woods and be private, maybe run their business there, whatever. But if you're really looking for an opportunity to provide some housing with the R5, you can get about, we've done some feasibility studies, you can get between 20 and 24 townhomes. Or 10, sorry. Or 10, you can get between 20 and 24 townhomes along that same stretch in your town. So it's a series of single family lots.
And you're running right up on.
And this would be the opportunity to do that now. Because the committee did recommend, and I think staff along a lot of R5 all the way down to the village. So, but that's way in the future. That's going to take a lot of consolidations before you see anything meaningful. The owner of this property is ready to go. He's ready to provide, as I said, 20 to 24 townhomes. They're not going to be high priced townhomes. They'll be market, whatever the market is, but they're going to be reasonably priced because of the area and because of the property's configuration. So that's what we'd ask you to do tonight, is just reconsider and think about R10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
My name is Kyle Mayberry with the 7 Improvement Association. We're located on Queenstown Road. We have been fighting 2 struggles. One is the potential 7 retreat on 10 acres of industrial property on the west side of Queenstown Road, which is considered Region 1. Right here. The other side of Queenstown Road is considered Region 3. We made a recommendation to planning and zoning that the whole Queenstown Road be Region 3. And we're not sure where that stands, but we want to thank the committee for on the Region 1 side, where this potential 10-acre 7 retreat, project 796 Queenstown Road is. Planning and zoning did make a recommendation for every other property to be down zone. So we want to thank you guys just for that quick kind of turnaround. We were shocked that we would see that, because all of that space is industrial property. I live right here, but this is where the potential property would be. So we're just coming, I'm coming to really thank you guys for that. And also, we are fighting the front of Queenstown Road, Jones Road and Walworth, where it's industrial property and the airport owns quite a lot of property. And it has changed the low density look of this Jones Road and Walworth. It's what the gentleman before was talking about, is all this pretty much industrial property. And that has completely changed the look of Queenstown Road in the last couple of years. It was a historic Black community. They were told that they could not down zone, and now it's forced out. So I'm just here to represent my community organization. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Department.
Aaron Benson, YBS Law. Just 2 quick comments. One, he's the R3 SBN 3900. That's the Carriage Limited Partnership LLP is the owner. It's like the Lake Village Townhomes. We would just like to request retaining the R15. It's currently request, there's a consistency change for open space. It's the rec area of the community, so we're just trying to keep the R15 as the county has done in the past SAC regions. And then the second is CZR3 GBN 2149. That's CC2 LLC is the property owner, and that's the Towns at Greenway in Glen Burnie. And we are just requesting to retain the existing C3. Thank you.
And both of those are ones that I was planning to go over with you all, so.
Any other comments?
We have one behind you.
Just one more quick one. I wanted to thank you all for all the work that you've done in the last several months. You adjusted the agenda to put public comment forward at the meeting. And the other night at the Region 1 meeting, it gave the appearance that staff and the county SAC was not interested in hearing the opinions of the public, which I know is not the case at all. And that we don't want the public to feel shut out. What you've done tonight by advancing the public comment now, make sure that people feel and understand that this is very much an open process. And I think it conveys just the right message. So I wanted to thank you about that. Just have one question. I did have two clients approach me very, very late in the process, and they had asked that I submit an application on their behalf, recognizing that it was late in the process. Just wasn't sure if those two applications were going to receive any consideration or discussion this evening, or whether they would be waiting for the planning about 402 and 406 bringing out.
Those came in during the preliminary review period. So yeah, we were going to talk about this tonight. We've sent that information out to the committee and we'll discuss.
Thank you very much. That is the last public comment. We'll move on to.
The first two speakers where we didn't see on the screen like what they were talking about necessarily. Are we covering those sites this evening? Okay, cool. So we can pull them up as we discuss.
Yeah.
It was, Sally, so 586 Jones Road and then Sally. I see 582 Jones Road.
Solid Road was 7560 Solid Road.
586. 586.
Why don't let's add the Solly Road to the, I don't have a slide dedicated to that, but we can talk about that. You can revisit that.
582 Jones Road here.
Yeah, I've got that teed up.
This was 586, the property.
No, 586.
586.
Right here.
That's a different one.
That's a different.
Okay. So why don't we go ahead and pull up the presentation, if you would?
Yep.
And we'll start on slide 6. So while he's doing that, I know I sent you all an awful lot in the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate your time looking through that. We've received a number of your comments. That's very much appreciated. So what I'd like to do now is we're going to start by going through the draft map, reviewing some of the public comments that we got, and give you a chance to discuss some of those things as well. I'm gonna show this in the presentation. Hopefully some of the slides that I have will be enough to kind of orient us, but Andrew does have the map as well that he can pull up, right?
Yeah,
on your,
yeah.
on your screen. And then I'm going to start generally in the west part of the region, so the western Severn area, and from there we'll go start moving east through Queenstown, Millersville, and then up through Glens Burnie and kind of end with Marley next. So that's just to kind of orient us.
I forgot my notebook and I'm wondering if anybody has 1 or 2 pieces of paper I could use to take notes.
Yeah.
I remembered the pen, but this is the first time I forgot my notes. Thank you.
All right. So you'll go to the next slide, please. In the West Severn area, and I need to find my notes. You have an extra? Yeah, I got it. Sorry, these are the things I was gonna have set up if I'd been able to get in here at 4:30.
Okay.
My apologies.
This was gonna be the greatest meeting.
It was so organized, you guys. It was, you were gonna be mind blown. Thank you. I'm not sure where mine.
Also, for the SAC or for members of the public, I know I'm kind of like between the screen and you, but is it blocking your view too much or? There's not too much I can do to move out of the screen.
You're good.
All right, cool. Just wanted to-
All right, so if you look at the screen, the bottom left corner, so this is one of the things that our one of our speakers just mentioned, south of New Disney Road and on the west side of Carriage Drive, the area that we have outlined in red there, that's the area that the owner's agent sent a request in to retain R15 on that community recreation area. We did speak with our development division. They would be able to potentially redevelop or replat that open space area if there were some redevelopment of that community in the future. So OPZ, we are changing our recommendation to recommend retaining that R5, supporting that request, that R15, I mean. And that would also change the planned land use to high density residential. I will point out, so originally, under the adopted zoning that's in place now, about half of that is under open space zoning. Currently, any floodplain area on that parcel will still be protected, of course, under floodplain regulations. So the R15 would not necessarily threaten that. And then staying on this slide, up in the upper right corner, there was a new application that came in at 1309 Severn Station Road. So this is an area that the owner, they have several properties. There are actually 3 properties, the 2 that are circled and then one that's just across the street, and also in yellow, the R2. The owner wants to rezone this from C1 and R2 in the adopted zoning. They want either W2 or C4 to allow for outdoor storage of boats and RVs in that area. Our analysis, OPZ, we feel like the area is under the neighborhood preservation development policy area, and we're recommending retaining the existing zoning there. We felt like the W2 or C4, both of those are an extremely, it's an extreme jump for that site, and it would really expose the surrounding neighborhood to a range of potentially incompatible uses. Despite, I have no doubt the owner truly intends to use it just for that purpose, but once you change the zoning, it does open up all of the other potential uses in that area.
They can sell it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's our recommendation on those 2. Do we want to go ahead and have the SAC weigh in on those before moving on? I kind of think I'd recommend that.
Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Okay.
On the first one that you introduced, were they to build out something when given the R15, it would be replacing the fact that they have some type of an activity place now or recreation?
They would still be required to have.
So they would still be required to have.
Mhm. They could just relocate it.
Okay.
On the site.
Yep, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so take a motion to review the OPZ's recommendations for the 2 public, well, the 1 public comment application that was submitted. All those in favor of OPZ, supporting OPZ's 2 recommendations. Show by sign. Show by the sign. Show of hands. All those opposed? Any online?
And we have Alyssa online. Is Alyssa in favor?
Melissa, are you there?
I should probably be logged into Zoom too. Let me do that and maybe I can help.
She said.
In favor of the committee.
All right, moving forward. The next, if you go to the next slide, please. This is the Telegraph Road area, which we just heard about. So
Wait a minute, in the previous slide, didn't we just do the top part or did we do both?
we just did both, yeah.
No, I just heard the public comment. I didn't hear the other one.
All right, so if you'll go to the next slide. So this, the large, if you'll indicate Munson Heights there, that was one, so this is the area that we had recommended upzoning from R1 to R2. That's an existing neighborhood. Most of the neighborhood is built at R2. In the comments that we received, didn't really find a whole lot of people that were not in favor of that, going to R2 there, except there are two properties down here that are a little bit larger than the others. One property owner did reach out to us and say unequivocally that she is not interested in having her property upzoned to R2. They would like to retain the R1. We did not hear from the second property owner in that area, and because we didn't want to have an island in that area, OPZ were going to recommend maintaining that R2 recommendation for that full neighborhood as it is there. R5 along the rest of Telegraph Road, I'm going to come back to this. Along the rest of Telegraph Road, I'm
sorry, that's it, North Telegraph, and what, can we move the picture down to the lower corner? I'll just say there, okay, cross street.
We'll get to the more southern part of Telegraph in another slide.
Okay.
This is just a little about 100 and such.
In between Reef and
Didn't get a whole lot, it didn't get as much opposition in this area as I had expected. Didn't get as many negative comments as I had really anticipated. And we did have some folks who are within that recommended R5 area who are in favor of upzoning to R5. I think at this point, our recommendation would be to maintain the R5 recommendation. Let's see, we got 3 phone calls related to that area. I'd recommend maintaining the R5 recommendation and put it out during the PAB process and see what happens then. And with regard to this application as well, we are still maintaining our recommendation right now for R5. So, but you heard, and I'm not going to reiterate what they said in their own words. So they're still requesting, and they've sent letters and spoken tonight about requesting retaining the R or moving up to an R10 recommendation for that area. There are some folks in this neighborhood who have submitted comments that they like the open and undeveloped status of that plot, but it's private property and it should develop if that's what the owner wants. So I think the question is, what do you all feel like should be the zoning along Telegraph Road and on that area as well? And so I'd like to open that up to you all.
Revisiting that whole area, or just?
Well, the whole area. I mean, if you all are having different, you can open up anything in the zoning map. But this is kind of the ones that I wanted to highlight, because these are the areas that we put out there with our recommendations. These are the comments that we've received, and I want to share that with you all. And then if you all change your recommendation, that's fine. If not, that's fine. In this case, OPZ is maintaining all of our recommendations, and they were in line with what you all recommended.
Can you remind us that going down into the red is also R5s, right?
Yeah, I'll switch to, you can see a bit better view. So just to kind of get back to that same area we're looking at like in the screenshot. Here is Munson Heights. And this is that red area, which is part of the village center.
So it's primarily been a recommendation to upzone from R1 to R5, except for Munson Heights, which was to go only to R2.
So, the area that some people were saying they'd like to be open space, was that like a forested area? Why do they want
It backs up to the southern lots of Munson Heights.
Mhm.
And it's undeveloped currently. I think there is some floodplain, there are some environmental constraints, those will remain, and the environmental regulations will remain in place. There, either way, under R5 or R10, those would have to be, complied with. But it is true, you have existing water and sewer there, so they would have to connect. I think their argument is, that they need the density and to be able to get the number of units in to be able to make that pencil out.
Can we put the chart back up too? The
Some other waiver variance, I don't know, to, for the owner to use to increase, like, provide the 6-acre minimum for townhouses? Is there some other path other than increasing the zoning lot?
So, yeah, I believe you can get a variance to that, it's part of the zoning code, so that would be a piece.
And just.
You can have R5 and take the 10 acres, that was 6 acres, and then be able to have it built.
You could ask for a variance.
if it stays.
If it's now, it goes to R5. They get the variance to the 10 acres, not to have the other. There doesn't be much area actually required around it to get to your 10 acres. But the point is if you're gonna do townhouses or across the street, it's just, and what kind of housing does the committee, think is best for that area? I mean, if it's gonna be 2 or 3 single family houses, they're gonna be expensive. Or is it better because of the townhouses across the street and the townhouses below them that are under construction right now, right behind the McDonald's, there is a big R15 piece that they're building on right now. So it's just a question of what, again, I think we talked about it in the last meeting, all those parcels that were taken to R5, it's gonna be years for them to do any kind of merger and consolidation for somebody to go in and buy all those to really do anything with it. So, and then they will have a natural buffer, because the applicants have said that there's a flood zone right along the Munson Heights. So they won't be able to get into the flood zone. So I think he said, you get 2 or 3 houses or 20 to 24 more affordable, townhouses or
So if we were to take it to recommend taking it to R10, it would still need to be all of the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The road is a concern as well. That's not the traffic on that road, but that's gonna have to be considered probably. What we recommend.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, if they do 2 or 3, there'll be no traffic study. If they do 20, or they do 20, there'll be a traffic study. There's a cutoff, how many units triggers you do traffic.
Very much more traffic study on the road.
And I will say SHA is doing some design work on this part of the road, and I've been working with them as well and kind of put forward all these scenarios with them, so they're aware.
So what was OPC's recommendation again?
We had recommended maintaining the preliminary recommendation for R5 through that area. But yeah, you all are welcome to take in new information and disagree and make a different recommendation.
So were you thinking, some, in the last meetings, we made a recommendation that we stayed with OPCs, but we allow for variance in the R5.
That's not, oh,
Yeah,
Permit,
we
yeah.
would get a variance that you may or may not get. It's, you got.
That's a development
You gotta,
process.
you gotta do a mistake or hardship.
Yeah.
There's several tests to even be considered for the variance. But,
I was asking partly because I don't think I have a problem with townhouses there and in relationship with other townhouses and other environments, but just for the like consistency and continuity, if it. That was my piece of background, but I don't personally see a problem with that.
yeah, I think the consistency piece is meant to apply when there's like a whole area that's consistent, like one way or another. This being one side of the road, town is half a mile down, another set of townhouses being built now. At least for me, I don't worry as much about the consistency because it is very choppy.
oh, it is.
That's been my concern, so that's.
If
helpful to hear
Morgan
that.
Station, which is to the east of Telegraph Road, which is all developed as an R5, then right just north of it is townhouses. So it's choppy right there, but it's that person, that homeowner, the landowner wanted to develop the land 10 years ago. And then, or 15 years ago for Morgan Station, so was under R5. So it is going to, because of our county situation, it can, it's hard to be consistent in everything, moving right down from R15 to R5. But it goes from R15 to R5 to C2 or wherever, probably C3 where the rural farm is. So it's very a lot of different zonings in there.
So, any other questions?
Is that an area of the county where we need dense housing? Because of.
We need dense housing.
The whole region needs it, yeah.
It's
And that's,
not,
I'm gonna touch on that.
We
in-
also need keep some green space and
Mhm.
whenever
Yeah, but
you
you see, the
do
town
that.
has to create as much green space as right now, 4 or 5, 8 single families with roads and all. Or depending on the building envelope that they cluster them together as townhouses. And like I said before, in buying things, the single families there, you know, I mean, they're gonna be much less affordable than towns or condos in that area. They're gonna be much less affordable because they're gonna be so expensive. Where the towns wouldn't be able to support lower purchase prices.
So then let's take it to the vote. All those in favor of, sticking with OPC's recommendation to retain R5 versus the, consideration for R10? Show of hands. All those in favor of retaining OPC's recommendation? Although the property owner's request to go to R10.
Was there any other proposals? And Alyssa says, our to maintain.
Okay, thank you. Well, the only other proposal was, we didn't change our recommendation on the rest of Telegraph Road, Munson Heights, or R5. So unless you all want to change your recommendation on there, we don't need to discuss or take another vote.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the next slide then is the South Severn area. We got a new application on Clark Station Road. So 7917 Clark Station Road, the owner, whose property is, this is actually the very southern, the south, or the lower part of the slide there. This owner requested changing her property from R2 to R5, but the application was actually submitted. It was for her property and several, I'm sorry, we're talking about the one at the top.
Yeah.
Yes, just below Thompson Avenue. So I misspoke. It was her property. The circle is actually a little bit to the left. It's actually this property here.
Yeah.
The property owner submitted this application for her site, but then also several of her neighbors as well. I asked for, we need verification from those other owners that they want to be a party to the request to move up to R5. We haven't got that yet. So at this point, we can only assess the request for this property right there. And at this point, we're recommending not granting R5. It would be sort of, it doesn't have access off of Clark Station Road, but it's a shared easement. So we're sort of recommending maintain R2 there, that line between R5 and R2, just maintain it as it is. If others come in during the planning advisory board process, we could assess something differently at that point.
What do they want to do then? I know R5, but what do they say?
Additional subdivision of the property. There is some subdivision potential already, so it would be more housing units. And then,
How many acres?
oh, it is. I'm sorry, I thought I had that written down. I think it's 4 acres if I recall, but I cannot say for sure. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that written in my notes here.
I can check real quick on.
While he's looking that up, I'll move down to the one below it, 8213 WBNA Road. The owner is requesting R5 for the full site, and that's in order to make an existing structure a triplex. Oh, we've moved off of it.
What exactly is a triplex?
It would be 3 units within one building.
Like one building and then 3 homes?
So so in that case, there's an existing house that my understanding is they want to not subdivide the lot, but turn it, develop the house into 3 units conjoined. So that would be a triplex there.
And I just checked, Patrick, it's a little over 2 acres.
Oh, okay. So I had it.
For this,
one of
this property, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So the one at the bottom, that's the 8213 WBNA road. They're requesting R5, and OPZ is recommending supporting that. There's direct access from WBNA road, so we would support that, and it would need a planned land use change to do that.
Did the property sustain something besides the triplex if it is the R5?
Can you click on the size of that?
Yeah, you shoot for the one on Clark Station or the one on WBNA?
WBNA.
Sure. One on WBNA. This one I believe, right, Patrick?
It's that one, yeah.
Yep. Okay, for the size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1.1 acre, 1.2 acres.
Yeah, 1.2 acres.
Yeah.
And they didn't say in there what they wanted it for, sorry.
It's for workforce housing. So the applicant was it was to create a workforce housing. That would be the point for needing the triplex to do that. So.
To some as individual units.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do they do with the
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Amenity space.
Oh, they have it here.
Okay.
So is there more discussion or more questions on those?
No, so there's two properties. Well, quick vote on together. So we'll do this property since we're looking at it on the screen. OBC's recommendation is to take to grant the request to go from
R2 to R5.
to
Mhm.
let's just do this and just look at it. All those in favor of going from R2 to R5?
I'm looking at this, Patrick, and it
Mhm.
looks like they're subdivided into 3 blocks,
Okay, okay.
which isn't a triplex.
It's not a triplex, but
I mean,
that
they're
was-
all, like less than an acre, obviously,
Mhm.
15,000 to 20,000 square feet.
yep.
I don't know, I just feel like that's not consistent with their request.
They probably, they misused the word triplex in that case, yeah.
Does that change OPZ's recommendation or concern?
Mm-mm.
Raise any concern?
It's a large parcel, everything else, I mean, for a 3 lot subdivision. I mean, it's still, lots are still way bigger than everything to the west, I mean, to the east of it.
Yeah.
I mean, look to the east. It's all R5. And much different.
Any other questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor of accepting OPZ's recommendation to go from R2 to R5? Show of hands. All those opposed? See what the list of voters online.
She says she's in favor.
She says, in favor.
To the first one.
Yeah, the Clark Station Road 7917, that was the request to change from R2 to R5. We were recommending maintain the R2 on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I think
That sounds like a consensus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, I mean, if the surrounding properties, if they obviously, if they come forward and say, hey, we'd all like to get an R5, I'd recommend that. I mean, again, but that's gonna be in the future. We don't.
That's kind of our thinking. I've only heard from one surrounding property owner who did not want to be a party to this.
There you go.
So someone just submitted on their behalf.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's all.
you can't do that. So,
All right. All those in favor of accepting OPZ's recommendation to maintain R2? All those opposed?
okay.
And let's stay in favor of OPZ's recommendation.
That was for
that was
the
the
first. Let me see, let's say you wanna type, also, you're welcome to speak as well, whatever you prefer, just wanna make sure you do.
You own 7917, is that what you said? Clark Station, I mean,
Yeah, 7917.
is it one hole?
That, so I'm giving you the information that I've gotten since when I sent that out to you all. Yeah.
I put it on Google just for.
Alyssa, just checking if you're, in favor for both, or just for the one on, WVNA, okay, both, okay.
Okay. So if we can move to the next slide, this one, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this one. This was just one that I wanted to point out. We did get, this area of change that you see noted here. We did get one of multiple owners of this property concerned with the recommendation to change the site from, it's currently split between open space R5 and R2, and we were recommending going to R2. This is 41 acres in total, and this is just it's off of Telegraph Road, but just south of Evergreen Road. It was kind of a hostile phone call. Why are we changing what's not broken? There's kind of a general distrust of anything related to local government. We're maintaining our recommendation for all of that to be one consistent zone of R2 for that. So anyway, that's just kind of an FYI, I think, unless you all want to change the recommendation on that. But I just wanted to highlight that as one of the comments that we sent to you all. If we go to the next slide, also the South Severn area, if you all are familiar with Grover Road, it's just to the west of 97. There are several industrially zoned, well, they're split now between industrial and open space zoning. We did a little bit more analysis on this, and we're gonna recommend for the properties that are outlined in red there, that we're gonna recommend changing from W1 OS and R1, changing that to R2. We took a look at this area, and due to the neighborhood that's to the north, all of that is, I think that's an R5 neighborhood, but we're going to recommend going to R2 here to support additional housing in this area and for that to be more compatible with that existing neighborhood
Does this
immediately to the
mean we're
north.
losing some open space that we had and maybe it was green?
To the west, so the areas to the west are open space zoned. Again, all of those environmental requirements and regulations remain in place. But it would, so this is a change from our initial preliminary recommendation for all of this to go to W1. We're going to recommend it go to R2. And this is a case where the owner would get a letter about this change and we'll get a reaction from them that way during the PAV process.
This is very near the new high school.
Yes,
So this would be walkable, I think, to the high school.
and more housing there.
Residential. It's just, you know.
Yeah, I can show you.
It feels what?
I think it's field right now.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it was part of the farm.
Mhm.
Was it part of the,
Mhm.
was it part of the whole farm that is, or is it a different, yeah. I always thought it was all part of the same farm, and when they developed for the school, I was like, why did we lose
Are you going to?
people to?
It's on the other side.
What's there, one house and one?
I have it, it's,
He has it right there. You're just talking about the, west side of Grover, or what are you doing on the east side in between 97?
Not touching that. So
Touching
yeah,
that.
so it's all one parcel here.
Oh,
We're recommending this portion go to R2 and also this. And that. But in these areas that are on this side of Grover, we would leave them as.
As W, what are they now?
WW1.
That makes sense up against 97.
It doesn't make sense because there's nothing else. It was farmland, so like as just open farmland, it made sense when there was other farmland, but there's nothing else on this side of the highway that is like.
Yeah, the county facility is right below there. I think the
Yes,
police
but that's
department-
like, it's like a whole other world out there. There's like no people. And it's just like a weird wedge of space. It'll be a very strange, random. Like wedge. Like I think it should be.
What are you saying it should be?
I think it should match both sides of the group.
It's probably not an expert, but once you do your setback to 97, I don't know which line you got.
I think we were thinking, don't put residential up against.
Residential up against the back. I mean, from a standpoint, why would you want residential up against 97? We had the buffer of Grover Road.
Sure, I guess I just.
I mean, that's.
Let anyone wonder. Weird, it's a weird fact.
You're not wrong. So that was our recommendation. Does that, how does that land with you all?
To go to
R2,
R2
yeah.
on the west side of Grover and leaving.
Yeah, we were limiting it to the west side of Grover, yeah.
And leaving everything else the way it is.
And this is a change from our W1 recommendation.
But the owner hadn't brought anything.
No, not yet, but we will trigger
Getting
that
a
by
letter.
getting a letter, yeah.
All those in favor of the recommendation, vote Z. All those opposed? This is online.
Alyssa says, why not match with the northern area
Why
as
not match the northern, why not?
Okay, so there's a question. Do we want to just go R5 on that
I
area?
just wrote the same thing.
Mhm.
Cause that's what. Is that what?
Yeah, so this area where you initially said R2.
Yeah.
She's saying, why not R5?
Question, is our five right above it?
Yeah, R5 isn't it?
Why did you guys pick R2?
The adjacent to the Severn Run. It is different.
Yeah, I'm okay with going our five. For consistency, we'll back up to a large area.
She's saying that it's R2 because.
If they didn't ask for it, why wouldn't we just,
Give them the answer.
well, no, leave it at R, if the recommendation is R2, because that aligns with the school coming now developed and all that. Without a plan, because they could come back and say, actually, thanks so much, but now we want R5.
We can note this discussion as well that there, or I mean, if half of you voted R2 and half of you voted R5 too, that would be noted in the plan as well, but.
And something that we would, bring up with the planning advisory board is we're going through the recommendations, the differences between what our recommendation is.
Well, I guess one of my questions is what's the difference with the impact on the environmental area between R2 and R5? And do you see any big difference or?
It would be more units in this area and, so, yeah.
Would it
So
have a negative, I mean, would it have a significant negative impact on the Severn? On the environmental area? No,
mhm.
I just see it more of a transition between that area. That's magical here from the environmental community as well. Hopefully see it as a positive by rezoning it from W1 for what it could be, but
I'd say go with the R5, pull the whole Band-Aid off. I'm just saying, I mean, if you're going to go to R2, the jump to R5 isn't much. I mean, it's just, again, if you're, the point is bring up, you want to maintain consistency.
The goal is.
It's right across, it's literally right across the street.
And it puts it out there for comment.
R5 gets every time, who's are you? Gets you 60, I mean, gets you, it's 60 acres.
I just feel like, why not let them ask?
They don't have to change it, they don't have to sell it. Yeah, they can keep buying it. Is that Humphreys?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, well, that's a big, okay, I knew Humphreys, so. Yeah, they wouldn't leave it rural, I think.
Hmm.
You wanna vote R2 versus R5?
Yeah, so, how many, all those in favor of R2? All those in favor of R5?
I'm sorry, it was the two of you and then was Alyssa R5?
As also said, if we are already saying, upzone, it seems like we want consistency with neighbor properties, also keeping in mind they're actually changing the form, so R2.
She's team R2, all right. Okay, thank you. We'll note this though and bring it up at, well, we'll find out what the owner, how this lands with them. All right, I want to move to the Queenstown area at this point. The Queenstown area, so I sort of paused the discussion at our last meeting because we had some upcoming outreach that we were going to do in the Queenstown area. We've done a lot of outreach. I dedicated a whole section in the draft plan that maybe you had a chance to kind of look at that. This is one of the toughest areas in the county, I think, certainly in the region, due to the presence of the airport just to the north. The airport has what's called an airport noise zone that extends, far down into this area. Actually, it encompasses some of these residentially zoned properties as well. Within the airport noise zone, FFA regulations, they really would prefer not to see residential zoning and residential uses within the airport noise zone because of the health impacts of the noise. So, we had outreach to talk to folks and find out, does more of the community want to consider rezoning to, either W1, that Jones Road area, or a commercial zone on parts of those areas. And then I even had a separate meeting where we reached out to just the residential zoned properties that are within the airport noise zone. Virtually unanimous input that I got from the entire community. This is a very historic Black community that is dedicated to maintaining that low density residential character. So at this point, we're maintaining our recommendation to not have significant zoning changes in this area in order to kind of protect and honor the. There's a lot of work going on the ground among residents who live there. They're young folks, way younger than any of us in this room, that are buying properties in order to keep them in the families and try to maintain that character and the community that is there. So we felt very strongly about that. In the Jones Road area, the area that is circled at the top there, we did get one. No, that's the prior application where, and we heard from the gentleman this afternoon reiterating the request for W2 because there's no adjacent residential zoning. We did get some other comments that were supporting retaining the W1 zoning in that area. We did get one more application in that area. Actually, there were two new applications. One was 582 Jones Road. This is a residential property. The woman who owns that property wants to actually change her zoning from W1 to R2. So in the whole Jones Road area, we're actually recommending maintaining the zoning as it is in all cases. Maintain W1, not go to the R2, but maintain W1 and not go up to W2.
Out of respect for the neighborhood.
Yes. But understanding, so part of the problem with the Jones Road area is the comments that I heard in all of the outreach, I heard more complaints about noise from trucks on Queenstown Road than I did about the airplanes that are flying within the flight path over the houses there. I think people seem to understand, though, that Jones Road is an industrial area. We do have a recommendation in the draft plan to try to find an access to Jones Road so that those trucks can have a different route to get to that area that does not have to use Queenstown Road. And so that's something that would be worked on, but that's a strategy that's recommended in the draft plan as it stands now. We did get a second application. You see it circled, the light pink, the bottom there. It's an area that is currently zoned C2. The application requested, what was it?
W1.
They did request W1 in order to, in their words, develop a warehouse and self-storage, and then cited just the location proximate to the airport, all of those things. And it is true that site is within the critical economic development policy area, but we are recommending retaining that C2 zoning in that area as well, as a transition between the more intensive commercial zones.
If it's C2, can't they go ahead and build
Yes.
self-storage?
That was, yeah, that was the other point, is that they can do at least self-storage under C2 through a special exception.
And what else, I mean, what would the, because I thought W1 was like basically downgrading it or whatever.
I think it's just a different set of permitted uses in one versus the other, and they wanted the W1, I think, to potentially be able to develop a warehouse or self-storage. The existing C2 gives them that option to do self-storage if they want to do that. So, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see what the point is.
So
what does OPC recommend?
We're recommending maintaining the preliminary recommendation for that whole area, which is no significant upzoning. There were alignment corrections that were done with the mapping, but that's where our recommendation stands. So I wanted to share all of that with you because there's been an extensive amount of outreach in that area.
In support of maintaining.
Yeah, and you'll see in the region plan as well. So Queenstown identifies all the way to the west and going across Route 100 into Region 1, which was mentioned by one of our speakers before. We do have a recommendation to change at the end of this process, change the region boundary to include that western end of Queenstown Road, bring that into Region 3 for future planning efforts so that the community is considered as a whole.
As long as it doesn't mean we have another meeting to do it.
No, your work would be done. It wouldn't take effect until the next time we get into region plans.
Was there an objection to it? Yeah, I have no objection.
Okay.
Sorry, what is the 586 transfer that?
Why
So-
go one by one? Like we did one by one.
Which one is 586?
The top box.
Yeah, you want to kind of dip into where for each individual one, yeah. So.
You put the addresses on.
Yeah.
My lot's in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't affect anybody. There's no traffic.
So this is, 582, this was the request for which, residential R2, right, and then, 586, that was the application we had previously talked about, that was, that we had already, discussed, they were requesting, W2.
It's at 600 right below it. What is it used, do you know? Right next to 586.
No, we just talked about that. I'm not
It's
sure.
got trucks sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's actively using the
Yeah.
industrial use, but I'm not exactly sure what.
Off the top of my head, I'm
So
not.
586 can't do outside storage in W1, is that correct?
Can you get a special exception for that? No,
I don't have the answer to that off the top of my
I
head.
don't either.
I don't think so.
And I just kind of to keep going for what we covered on the bigger map. On the screenshot on the slide. The other request that we received was, I'm just gonna outline it here. But pretty clear, because a little bit confusing, but it's the one that's highlighted in blue plus, plus 428. Or sorry. Plus, see, Patrick, is it 422? That's also with, the request, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's. This
416,
is
422.
in the lighter blue plus 422, but not 428.
So, I mean, that one, I'm good with leaving C2, they can get a special exception. Want to vote on that one?
Yeah. Good transition piece to lead C2.
All those are
From
good,
that.
and that's what it's currently. Yep, all those in favor of maintaining C2 on that property? All those opposed? And the list is online.
Maintain.
Did you want to revisit Jones?
We got. Yeah, 586 John Davis. W2. W2. Yeah.
We should maintain.
I'm gonna kind of run a small business.
Show us how it is in is in nowhere, is located nowhere. I mean, is it not near something?
You mean like just like zoom out a little bit to see the
Yeah, I
surrounding?
mean, the comment was made that it's in the middle of nowhere. Where's nowhere?
So, I mean, as you drive down this road, it is a fairly narrow 2-lane road. Jones Road is even smaller and less improved, but there's, wooded areas that are not currently developed. So I think that's the sense that it's just in an area that's undeveloped currently.
We kind of just
The
show.
neighbor right next to that one part too.
Mm-hmm.
So
But it's all within the airport noise zone, and the airport is not going away. This is the tough thing about this area.
So that noise zone though was from a long time ago. When it was set, and actually, like, the traffic patterns were very different when that noise zone was.
It's updated.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's updated regularly. I'd say maybe every 3 to 5 years.
And it does reflect their
So this is the
your
latest.
plan. Mhm.
So, when you mentioned the health impact of the noise, is it just like on your hearing or is it more than that?
More than that. I mean, if in extreme cases, they can call it
From the noise?
that.
Yeah,
I mean, over a period of time or like
Over a
one
period of time, or, I mean, it
it's just the stress and anxiety on the body, how those impacts.
hearing.
Mhm.
do that?
Now, there is a, there are a couple of programs that are available, and I talked about this in the meetings that I had in the community. Properties that are zoned R2 and within the airport noise zone can get funding for noise insulation. Properties that are zoned industrially cannot. So, but they could be bought out by the airport. So,
This currently is W1.
yes, yeah.
And they want W2.
Yeah.
Help me understand the difference, other than I know the outside storage piece. Is that the main?
No, so W1 is the industrial park district, W2 is light industrial. With W2, you start to get into like petroleum storage. I'm looking for other potential things. Truck stops, that wouldn't happen there. Wineries. Here's a whole slew. A lot of processing and distribution of different sorts, like monuments and statuary, moving storage establishments, motorcycle manufacturing, milk and dairy processing. So
what would they be doing?
a lot of processing.
It's the outside storage.
Well, then.
That's the reason for the request. Again,
Is that what it gives them? Does that change?
It allows them to.
It is just the outside, I mean, it allows them outside storage.
it would, but
It
it would allow all of these other manufacturing things to begin to come online as well.
Yeah,
Potentially.
It's 1 acre. So those manufacturing things you just outlined, it make no sense with them.
And if you do R2 in the house next door, there's gonna be setbacks. I mean, it wouldn't make sense.
Well, we're not recommending R2.
Just vote, I mean. All those in favor of, maintaining the OPC's recommendation, I guess, is W1.
Mhm. Or both of those, yeah.
He could not store what he needs to store there.
So we're talking
Yeah.
we're talking about 586. Yeah, let's do 586.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand why he's not able to store the things he needs to store at W1. Is that right?
Mhm.
And those things are,
Well, I think his trucks and that kind of thing. We did get 4 comments on that request. 3 were representing the owner and supporting that W2 request. We did get 1 other comment recommending retaining the W1 in that area.
is this like a location that the community would care a lot about?
Yes.
It's the
Oh, it is.
access off of Queenstown
Okay,
Road
so
that is
it is
the issue.
important to the community.
Up the middle of nowhere, hardly.
Uh-huh.
It's a part of the
Okay,
Queenstown
so it
community.
doesn't sound like a good idea then. To me.
All right, well, let's do the vote. All those in favor of maintaining OPZ's recommendation for W1? All those for? And all those in favor of W2? W2?
Okay,
And Melissa's maintaining the OPC record W1.
good. All right. And then the 582, the residents request to go from W1 to R2. We would recommend retain W1.
Oh, yeah. All those in favor of maintaining W1?
That one's unanimous. Okay,
Yeah. Same as Melissa too.
great. All right. Let's knock out Millersville real quick. If we can go to the next slide. We talked about along Elverton Road. I just want to share. Yeah, I just want to share the owners, for at least for 2 of those requests, they re-requested changing from R5 to R1. If you remember, we had recommended retaining the R1 recommendation. You all had recommended R5. So again, we maintain our recommendation. I don't know that we need to take it up again unless you all are reconsidering the initial recommendation for R5.
I'll have a full conversation again now.
Okay. All right. If we'll go to the next slide, Southwest Glen Burnie area. So the parcel in the upper left, that's called 3rd Avenue Park. It's privately owned by the Glen Burnie Improvement Association. They have a split zoned property right now. We initially recommended R5, had a meeting with their group. Don't have a firm response from them. The group that owns the property, the Improvement Association, there was some discussion among themselves. Do they want to request OS zoning in order to kind of protect the park? They don't want to see development. They don't want to see the park in the future developed. We're still recommending R5 because a lot of recreational uses are precluded in OS zoning. So if they came in with new playground equipment or that kind of thing, that could really not be allowed potentially if they were to be zoned for OS. So we're maintaining our recommendation for R5. I don't have a formal response from the group yet, so I don't know that there's a vote necessarily that you all need to take unless you want to change your concurrence with us previously, but they will send a letter during the PAB period indicating their preference for OS or R5 on that
What you're
site.
talking about doesn't seem to be reflected in that slide.
It's
I'm getting confused.
it's this property here.
One in the red?
Yeah, right, sir.
Yeah.
This. Yeah, so the dotted line you see here, this area is currently zoned open space. This is currently zoned R5, so it's split zoned on the ground at this point. We're recommending that all be R5 and that the group is.
Can you bring up a bigger shot?
Yep.
The group is pursuing grant to do some additional recreational uses there. So I think that's a key piece of information that they need to be able to consider.
This is the current zoning. What was on the slide for that one was what we're recommending. So you can see here the open space in the back and the R5 in front.
You can't have playground with OS?
There are much deeper setbacks from residential uses. It's much more constrained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there, what's there now? There actually.
It's a park, yeah. It's very well used. They have fields, they have what is it that they have? There's some playground stuff there, bars and whatnot.
So I'm
And
really
bathrooms.
confused at this point. The park would remain a park even if
Mhm.
it's owned R5.
The owner.
But
This is very,
it could turn residential if it's R5.
they would have to sell the property to do that.
Okay.
How about making it R1? Just to make it more challenging for them to have to actually have to, if it was ever to be sold. We're trying to preclude the ability to make it easily sold at R5.
What Patrick's saying is there's more availability for recreation in an R5 zone that the Improvement Association owns, if I heard him correctly.
Because of the lot size,
Be-
right? Because of the setback.
No,
that makes
there's
it
different,
small.
there's different uses in R5 that allow recreational facilities that aren't available in the other zoning classes, from what I got.
No, that's not what I was saying. We had recommended R5 because that's consistent with the neighborhood, but it also allows them to do these recreational uses to add things if they were to get a grant to.
The R5.
It does allow more than the OS. But it
Yes,
wasn't-
that
it
compared
wasn't-
to OS.
it wasn't
Or to do
necessarily-
park improvements.
I think Patrick's just checking
Well-
if versus like the R1 versus R5 for the improvements, for the OS versus R5 at least.
We didn't evaluate R1 because it isn't
Wouldn't make
consistent with.
It's not consistent. It should be
Yeah.
R5.
Mhm.
Well, it's
But the other thing is,
consistent with the park.
it's consistent with the purpose of it though. If you're going with R5 because you wanna have residences there. Where as opposed to the park area, where you don't wanna have residents.
Yeah, could
Just
they have
not-
the playground equipment if it was R1?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look up and
Would it be?
confirm. It should be
They didn't know.
Yeah,
They didn't respond.
not formally at this point, no.
They didn't,
We had a
they even stopped
meeting.
having the carnival, so I'm not really happy.
Well,
In October there.
Didn't have a carnival.
What are you really gonna get on?
I'll go to the carnival, and I will whip that wheel around and try to win me a Pepsi, okay?
Okay.
All right.
And you play bingo, and you play bingo with
Let's go ahead and
pieces
just
of
vote.
corn.
Or, is there a vote? Did they request anything?
Well, at this point, they haven't given us a formal response, so we're just maintaining our preliminary recommendation, which is R5 for the full property.
There's nothing that we need to vote on.
No, we need.
Unless you want to change your recommendation specific to this. I just wanted to bring this up because this was a comment received.
Does anyone feel like we need to vote to change the recommendation?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, it's recommended.
Okay.
We gotta keep moving.
The area circled in yellow, at the bottom, so this is just off of, Crane Highway and south of the town center. It's a new application. It's, the address is 10 Fifth Avenue. This is an existing car lot. And I've lost my place in my notes. Here we go. The owner's requesting C4 on this property to maintain, his existing car sales and to be able to build a building. there is a legal non-conforming status on this property for an approved 240 square foot office structure. They could expand that office, but in a very, very limited way under a special exception. So we're recommending supporting that C4 request on this site.
And it's, these four parcels. You can see where I kind of little lot, they use car lot.
Are we C4 in the adjacent? Is it to the south?
Oh. No, it's all, seems to be below.
Oh, trip is C3.
That's right. There's some C4 across.
I guess my own. The intent is to have consistency, have a topics that C4 and C3. With the two recommendation.
I'm curious, why go to the C4? I feel like the group has been relatively conservative on use of C4 in general. Because of what it could be.
I think because that's already one of the most intensive uses, so it wouldn't be introducing a new, potentially more intensive use on that property. You may disagree.
It's just a parcel on the corner of Hatfield Boulevard, Fifth Avenue, is that right? Not
Yeah.
Crane.
No, not fronting on the
Crane, just these.
It's just all that parcel.
Yeah, it's a used car like.
Why can't
And
you
it can't be
put a building under C3?
It can expand under the non-conforming status. Or it could, but not meaningfully.
Yeah.
And your county recommendation, C4?
The C4. Mm-hmm.
C4 on that property. So all those in favor of C4, taking the county recommendation of C4. All those opposed, and Alyssa's vote online.
To agree with C4.
Southwest Glen Burnie, this is just pointing out, this was a staff recommended change, 85 Kindred Way. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
And
that, just a quick question from Christina, that was the use right now is legal, non-conforming, or
correct.
Right. The next slide.
Yeah. This, it's 85 Kindred Way. It's an existing commercial use. Our preliminary draft had recommended R15. I think that's a mistake that came out during this. So we're recommending maintaining the existing C3 on this property. And so that's that building that's kind of in the center of that circle there. I can go through a couple of others too. Well, actually, maybe if you all want to support or otherwise on that before we get to the
How
next.
did we make that mistake?
There's another one coming up too. So it happens.
Yeah. All right. So all those in favor of following OPT's recommendation to retain existing C3. Will opposed? Please vote online.
Okay, so yeah, maintain. Or me.
Yeah. All right. Moving all the way up to the northernmost part of the region, on Ritchie Highway, so this is GBN 01, and we had kind of recommended, there are two properties here. We had recommended a split zone that actually was displayed incorrectly. We intended for our recommendation to be C4 on the front parcel, C3 on the back parcel, to kind of create a little bit of an intensity transition before reaching the residential, yes, on the east side of Sterling Avenue is the road that separates those two. The letter that was sent out indicated correctly. So we're maintaining our recommendation, but correcting the coloring on the map to show C4 recommended for fronting on R2. We did get the owner comment, and then also today requesting either C4 for the full site or to show or to split the zoning more along the existing adopted zoning split, which is just gonna point, but
Sorry, I can go back. That's okay.
the existing zoning is split somewhere in the middle of this property on the east side. And so the owner's request is either C4 for the whole property or to bring C4 out further into the easternmost property along that existing adopted zoning split. But we would like to maintain, in most cases, one zoning on a property where we can.
How many, there are 2 parcels?
There are 2 parcels, yeah.
How many
Yeah,
acres?
this is a big discussion.
Unless I haven't been on that meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the outcome before? I thought it was, did C4 on the one and C3 on the other?
Yeah, the last time.
That was the recommendation, yeah.
Well, what kind of significant impact would it have on that neighborhood that it abuts? If we just went C4?
I think,
Per year, 6301, Richie Highway.
yeah, and each is about an acre.
And Beltway interchange. The zoning line.
So if we did C3, if we did that, we had it and they wanted their gas station, they could get a special exception range. C3, you can get a special exception for gas.
Is that, are you looking at the?
No.
You're not looking. Give me one.
That's why I'm.
Dollars.
I don't know why anybody would build another gas station right now.
Oh, why not? More gas stations.
That's just what they said here, that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, bear with me one second. I trust that's probably correct.
Sorry.
Automobile gas station,
Yeah.
special exception in C3, conditional in C4.
Like, well, we changed.
So I feel like we should leave it as we have it, and they want to do what they say here about a gas station, they need a special exception.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of concern for the residential neighborhood to the west. They're already very hemmed in by the conditions around them.
You know, one concern we had was that it would be, abutting directly, this is part of that, back parcel not running, Richie. And here,
We're saying that would be C3.
Yeah. So you all are saying C4 for all.
C4 for the front parcel facing Richie, and then C3 for that parcel. Yeah.
Which is what we had, which is what
This is what we had.
So we're just.
Unless you're reopening it and.
No.
We're not changing our recommendation, so but we're going over the comments that we received.
They wanted all.
They wanted
C4. We're saying.
Nice.
Are we gonna take a bathroom break anytime?
Is now a good time to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take 5 minutes and.
Yeah.
I've got. I've got about 10 more slides that focus on zoning, and then the plan that I will run through very quickly.
10 slides. Pretty quickly, so we can move on. Unless there's an area of extension, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all's patience. Thank you. And if I knew how to turn the air conditioner on, I would do that. What's the address? 800 North Street. Yeah, we'll touch on that.
Is it gonna mess things up?
Target is a good one.
Okay, I'm gonna plow through these then, and you all, how about that? You all should slow me down when I need to. If we can go to slide number 18.
And Melissa just had, login just set up, Melissa just had a comment saying that to remind, the SAC that additional comments don't necessarily mean that additional discussion is warranted. Seems like, yeah, so if it's like not necessarily a new application, just keep that in mind.
Yeah. I want to point out one area, you asked how do mistakes happen? Well, here's another one. 400 Renfro Drive, which is off of Furnace Branch Avenue. There's an existing mixed-use building, offices on the lower floor. So this is the circled area on the upper left. Office on the lower floor, residential on the upper floor. We had recommended it for R15. We're now recommending maintain the existing C1 zoning that it was built under, and we're going to delete that as a consistency change from the list. We wouldn't have covered that individually before because it was kind of in that blanket consistency change list. And then the one below it is 7379 Furnace Branch Road. This is going to be different than what I had sent you. This is that former gas station property that's across from the Baptist Church on Furnace Branch Road. We did receive 2 phone calls. It was outside of the comment period, but the owner re-requested C1 for that property. We were concerned about recommending C1 from R5 on that property because we were concerned about potential for spot zoning. We did have some conversations internally, including with our Office of Law. So we are changing our recommendation to support C1. You all already supported C1 on that property. So unless you all are changing at this point, I don't know that you need to open that up. All right, so next slide, we got a new application off of Crane Highway. This is just north of the town center area, 912 Crane Highway. This had been the subject of a land use change application during Plan 2040. It's an existing residence, but it is within the critical corridor policy area. The owner's requesting either C1, C4, or a mixed use zone. We're going to support C1 as consistent with that the character along Crane Highway. So the actual applicant is this one with the dotted line that indicates it was a land use change application during the GDP process. So we're supporting the C1 request. We're also recommending C1 for the adjacent property to the for 910 Crane. This one is not requested, but the owner will receive a letter seeking comment if we make that recommendation and it goes to the Planning Advisory Board. We feel like that C1, go ahead. This is Crane, Crane Highway.
9th Avenue.
Yeah, Jackson Avenue, 9th Avenue. So we felt like that C1 would provide a transition between the more intensive commercial properties to the south and then the residences that are running on Jackson
And
Avenue.
what are you doing with the piece that's the pipestem between the two?
We were
going to see
gonna-
that on that?
Yeah, this is one where we would recommend a select.
So you're not gonna be able to put that in the back then, in a vacant piece?
Yeah,
910, it's a second parcel.
This one here,
Yeah,
I can.
nine ten looks like it has 2 parcels.
yeah, I'm double checking.
Here, here's the applications, site is this long,
Mhm.
skinny. And then, I can click that. 970C right here and there, so.
Yeah, but it's 2 separate, 910 looks like it's 2 separate parcels.
Yeah, for
You're right, thank you. Mhm.
that, we're
It
recommending.
should all be,
You're right.
it should all be C1.
Thank you for clarifying that. You're right. You're right. So all of that, we're recommending C1. on that. I had to get into our tables here.
And 908, what is that?
Right now, right?
The one south.
In terms of,
Zoning.
what the use or the zoning, the zoning
SC4.
is, yeah, C4.
But it's split zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and
you're
we,
leaving residential in the back? Or would you recommend going to C1 to the back of C4s?
bear with me, I'm trying to find. That we were actually, that was one that we were maintaining the split zone because of the backing
Of the stuff.
on 9th Avenue. Yeah, yeah.
Why did they request it next to see?
Not sure totally. The application didn't really say much of what they wanted to do. It was just the sense that they live in a commercial area with all the commercial around, but they hence want commercial. Do we want to talk about some others before voting, or?
No, let's just vote on this.
Okay.
So all those in favor of accepting these recommendations for C1? All those opposed, and Alyssa's vote on
Crispy one.
Yep.
If you go to the next one, 7237 Ritchie Highway, that's the property circled at the top. We had talked about this and we got some comment on this at the end of, I think, the last meeting. It's an existing gas station on a C3 lot. We had originally recommended C3. You all supported that recommendation. We are since amending our recommendation based on the comments that were received at the last meeting. I think it was at the end of the meeting, but amending the recommendation to C4 in order to avoid disincentivizing redevelopment or improvement of that older gas station. The issue was that the gas station does operate under a legal special exception, but that limits national franchise operators and could potentially disincentivize redevelop, or not redevelopment, but improvements of that gas station. So we're recommending C4 at this stage for that property in the upper right. And then the lower, I think they don't want to come in if they have to depend on a special exception that may or may not be granted. Yeah. And then 402, 406 Crane Highway, these are two new applications circled in the bottom of the screen there. Both of these are within the town center development policy area. And they're both currently zoned C3 and are requesting C4. The lower one, 402 Crane, so of the two, the one on the bottom, it's actually a contributing cultural resource to the Georgia Avenue and Chinkapin Hollow district. We're actually recommending C3 on both of those. The one at the lot on the northern side, it's an existing carpet store, I believe. And that one would be adjacent to C4, but we are recommending in this case maintain both as C3. Discussion.
all those in favor of accepting OPC's recommendation? Do we have? No question? 402 Crane Highway.
And 406.
His recommendation is, I'm sorry, I can't see what it says.
Oh, yeah.
Maintain the C3.
Yeah. All those in favor of taking OPC's recommendation of maintaining C3. Show of hands.
Did we run that one as well?
See, yeah, it was 406 and 402.
I know, but that's at the bottom, but then at the top,
The gas station retention.
Oh, yeah,
we already did that one?
no,
Not yet.
No.
so all those opposed, any opposed to the second? If that was unanimous for 402 and 406. Then we can go back to the one about the gas station and Capital Foods National Franchise. All those in favor of OPC's recommendation to go to C4 instead of C3? Okay. All those opposed? This is a vote for the.
Alyssa's, unanimous with Steve maybe on the, bottom two and then C4.
Okay. The next one's this was, we got a phone call about, go to the next slide, please.
Yep.
101 Central Avenue. This is an existing, it looks like a duplex with a single family home on the same lot at the rear, but it actually has 7 units on this property between the two structures. We had initially recommended R5, consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, but based on the existing use with that many units, we're gonna recommend R10, which is the existing, that's the existing zoning that had been applied.
You're saying 101 has 7 units?
Yeah.
You should,
According to the owner,
is that the property that's for sale?
don't know the answer to that. But it's existing, the adopted zoning currently is R10 on that property.
It's
So
currently
it would,
R10.
I'm sorry?
It's currently R10 and
Yeah.
you're gonna go to R.
Our recommendation had been to go R5 because that was consistent with the neighborhood, but based on the owner's desire to maintain this existing R10
Stay
zone, we're
what it
supporting
is.
that.
If it's R10, it's.
Yep. Those in favor of maintaining the R10?
Yep, and Alyssa's unanimous.
All right. If you'll go to the next slide, we got some comments on Greenway Village Place, 615 Greenway Road. It's just north of Arundel Mall. It's an existing small townhome development. A request from the owner's agent is to retain the existing C3. We had initially recommended a consistency change to R15 because we looked at it, it's townhomes, and we thought R15 would be appropriate, but they're requesting to retain their C3 zoning. So we would recommend supporting that and
They
change.
built that and never do their commercial section.
Say that again?
But when that was built, that they never really, it was C3, so you had to do a percent of residential and a percentage commercial. And that the commercial was never built.
I don't know the answer to that unless it could have been part of what was to the south. I don't know. I'll be honest, I haven't researched that at all. The area that we have outlined on the right, that large area that we had recommended all going to open space zoning, that is Arundel Civic Association's recreation or open space recreation area. They called and they actually want to maintain the existing split. We had that same conversation about, where I asked, do you want to do recreational uses on this site at any point in the future? It is an area that's predominantly in the critical area. We had that conversation as well. They didn't want to go to R5. They didn't want to go all OS. They want to maintain the existing adopted split on that property. So I think we're willing to support that since that's their specific request.
But it's not because they want to build homes there, just want like playground.
No, right.
Okay.
So there's 2. Both to follow the owner's request, is supporting the owner's request
retain C3, and then the second to retain and open and OS. All those in favor? The recommendation on those two. All those opposed?
Yeah. Melissa, agrees.
Okay.
We got one more to go to the next slide. We did get a letter from the owner of two small properties that are just below Marley Station Mall. This was actually kind of interesting to me. We had recommended the sites go fully to C3 zoning and remove some of the open space zoning at the rear of these small parcels. The owner reached out and noted that they want to retain the open space in C4 split. I misspoke. We had recommended C4 for the full properties. They want to retain the portion that is currently zoned open space. That came about during an administrative hearing decision from 2012. And so we would be willing to respect that request from them and maintain the adopted zoning that has a split between C4 and OS on those two small properties. So
C4 or C3, because I think it says C3.
The purple here is C4 and the red is C3. So it's retaining you see like the split right here, the current and obviously the green is OS. So
I think I miswrote in my notes here. Yeah.
Retaining the current split as you see it on the screen.
Not the writing on the side, are they different things?
Say again?
Is it open space and C3 split?
Let me double check because something's inconsistent. I've written something incorrect here. It's a C4 OS split. So that's what they want to retain is this C4 OS split, not C3.
Okay.
All those in favor of OPC's recommendation?
Melissa has a question. Owners can still have OS conditions if it's C4 or C3, right?
I don't understand the question. Oh, yeah, so our original recommendation has been to place C4 on the full property and have only one zone, and it allows for all of the environmental regulations. Those still remain in place and protecting that area. It's just that in this case, the owner wants that additional OS zone that had been applied back in 2012. So we were fine with that.
So it was unanimous here. Melissa on the call.
Yep, she's done.
Okay.
All right. Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard, we have a new application, 7711 Baltimore Annapolis. The owner requested C4. This is an existing bar or tavern. And this involves multiple properties actually. There's the bar, but there are several, a couple of residential properties as well. The owner wants to go from C3, and I think one of the properties is actually R5. We're recommending all of it go to C3 on all of the properties. We felt like C4, as they requested, would permit a wider range of uses that could be incompatible with the surrounding residential uses. And this kind of goes along with some of our prior conversations about Baltimore Annapolis and then Furnace Branch Road, where we kind of wanted to maintain a lower intensity of commercial uses, lower than C4 on some of those corridors in order to have commercial that serves the adjacent neighborhoods at a more appropriate or kind of local scale. So we're recommending C3 and extending that to all of the applicants' properties.
And they want C4.
They wanted C4, yeah. And this is across from Marley Middle, if that helps.
Any other comments? All those in favor of accepting the recommendation to retain C3 rather than the C4?
Um,
There's also has a question that did the SAC agree to upzone this area in these meetings? To me, it's listed as referring to, I'm not sure.
there was one application below, yeah, that we didn't get additional comments on that.
Yeah. The for C4. Where I thought, I don't know if you remember the same, Patrick, but I think we agreed, to keep C1, previous application that, we're not bringing up, but, that was, they requested C4. And we had agreed, we had, recommended that they C1.
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
Can you see if the SAC also, if, we also agreed?
I'm trying to, I'm on the wrong map, sorry. That we had recommended C1 on that property and you all had agreed with us on that, the C1 there.
On the lower property, not the one talking about that.
Right, so the area circled up there is a new application and we didn't get comments on anything on the one below it.
Oh, you can try again, Alyssa, sorry, my, might have been off, I'm here trying to see. But I think I understood what you were trying to say in, that, yeah, she was just making sure that, application we also had agreed to retain
Okay.
the C1.
Yeah.
And it's the same,
We did.
she agrees that.
She was just making sure we were consistent. All right. So if we can move over to the Freetown Road area, 7824 Freetown Road.
One more question is, okay, sorry, I just wanted. Yeah. Just to make sure you're for the retain the C3 versus the C4. Before you type in the C4, I want to double check. For the application in question, yeah, C3 retain is okay. Yes or no?
Okay. So the Freetown Road area, this was the subject of a land use change application during Plan 2040 as well. This came in, this go round as a request for R10, upzoning from the current R5 in order to develop townhomes and help with housing affordability. We're recommending retain the existing R5 due to the neighborhood compatibility. And that's kind of all that I had there. I will point out in fairness, there are townhomes on Whitaker Road that are just outside of our region, but kind of across the road and down a bit. But I think this might be a better area to consider in a future round of comprehensive zoning. I think right now maintain the R5 character here. That's our recommendation on this one. Yes.
And then I'm not too familiar with this at all. Any amenities that are welcome.
Yeah, so the park,
Yeah.
the elementary school here.
All those in favor of accepting the recommendation to retain R5?
Yep, and it looks like we maintaining.
Are we becoming more amenable the longer?
Is it 90?
get through it, so. So this area is 800 North Shore Drive. It's about 11 acres. The site, there's a small portion of the site that under adopted zoning is R2, but the owner requested the full site go to R2, up from residential low density zoning. We do not support that. We're recommending maintain our recommendation for RLD on this site. I'll note that this whole or virtually the whole site, not quite all of it, but most of it is within the critical area. And within the critical area, there are 3 designations. This one has the resource conservation area designation, which severely limits potential for development. So even granting R2 would not really give them much ability to develop significantly there. So we're maintaining our RLD recommendation. If you all want to open up for discussion, if not, you all had supported that as well.
What is RLD?
Residential low density. So that's consistent with what's there now. If we move up.
Also, Alyssa wants to add that this is directly outside my neighborhood and the community is against changing from RLD.
Yeah, and I've spoken with you as well, but.
Yeah. 1 dwelling per 5 acres.
Thank you.
But under the critical area, the resource conservation area, they can only do 1 dwelling unit per 20 acres anyway. So it's not changing the zoning wouldn't do much for them. If we move out to the end of the Marley Neck.
Yep.
I just plowed through that because you all had also said RLD.
Is that keeping it the same or not?
Keeping it the same.
Same.
And wait, I hear from Alyssa. You catch that? Yeah, she retained RLD.
Yeah. Okay,
now we can get to
So at the end of the Marley Neck area, and we may want to, I don't have a slide for Mr. Bittinger's property, so if we want to open that up as well. But at the end of Marley Neck, we had received an application earlier for this area. The owner reiterated their request for C3 in order to support a commercial complex there. We had initially recommended C1, but we're going to amend our recommendation to support that C3 request. So
What's meant by commercial complex, like a shopping center?
yeah. Now it is kind of a small site. I'm not sure that they will get that much there, but given the comments that we've heard about the need for commercial to support the residential development in this area, we thought support C3 here.
I'm supposed to listen to them.
So yeah.
It's close to where Alyssa lives. I wondered if she had thoughts on it.
This is a bit more north on Marley Neck, but I mean, in that general neighborhood area.
The bar.
So yeah.
It's there now, the bar.
Yeah, there's a bar on the end, and then for the parcels going north, following 4 small ones are currently vacant.
So it's gonna be all 4 parcels.
Yeah.
4.
Which I think when we were discussing comments from the applicant, that's what he was detailing. Yeah, voice.
Okay. Any comments, questions? All those in favor of OBC's recommendation to support C3? Alyssa?
Yep, Alyssa agreed.
And then you did hear from one person. I don't know if you want to go to the map. And the property just below the large mixed use property. We have not changed our recommendation on this one. The current zoning is W1. The request was for C4. We recommended W1. You all recommended W2. And So that's up to you all if you want to open that up again or. But we're maintaining our recommendation there.
No?
And did they put it on the application or?
Well, yeah, this came through in the initial round of applications. So this was a zoning application at that point where they requested C4.
So our original recommendation was W2.
Yours was W2. Yeah, now you've heard the applicant speak tonight, and if you want to revisit and make a different recommendation for C4, you may do that or not. It's up to you all.
I thought he said he couldn't, he wasn't doing that. It would still be non-conforming even if you got two.
Yeah, I think Arkansas
OTB recommendation?
W1, and it's because of what's coming into the north and then the existing to the south. Yeah.
Let's see, James.
7560
Thank you for that, because
on Holly Road.
yeah.
And, Patrick, I saw you had there's an application that came in for the site below as well.
Well, yeah, we addressed those though.
Right,
That was
that's right.
the prior round.
All right, so you all said W1, we said W2. Question on is C4.
I've lost track of why the owner wanted C4, to tell the truth. I remember that he spoke, but I don't remember what he said. It's hard to.
They need C4 to operate really well.
Yeah, he said they've been in the family. They've been
Yeah, I
using
knew
it.
that.
It was a G zoning that was. And the W2 doesn't give them what they need out. It's, yeah.
That's where across the streets. Yeah, the power. Okay, I guess the first thing is,
So they're doing truck storage. And they're already zoned. Oh, it is.
It's a legal non-conforming.
And so C4 you need for truck storage?
Mhm.
Well, this also says they have a non-conforming from use in now, and I'm against C4 and against changing our recommendation.
all those in favor of changing the recommendation is W2. All those in favor of changing the recommendation.
I really don't know what's surrounding that. And you said what's coming, when you were speaking, Patrick, you said.
So the large,
What's coming? And
yeah, the
what's
large 80 some odd acre property to the north, we had supported their request previously for them to be mixed use. I think it was mixed use residential on that property. And then you've got existing townhomes to the south. So this is
immediately to the south.
yeah. So this is Solly Road across from Brandon Woods Industrial Park or Business Park.
And Alyssa mentioned there's also Solly Elementary right below those townhomes as well.
So then you have mixed use, and then right below that, truck parking lot. More or less. We see the street there.
Yeah. And Patrick, for the application that was below the 7560, what did we end up funding? Just to give Joanne
W1.
W1. Thank you. So here's Solly and Tangier Meadow Street. This is the property in question.
So they would just have more trucks.
Equipment,
Well,
yeah.
he had construction, but it's not supposed to. So it's gonna look like that.
What's your like both sides of the street?
Yep.
And that's kind of not too far from the townhomes in elementary.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
So this is looking around, you can see this intersection here, this is going north. This is where we recommended with the mixed use on this parcel below Kenyon Spring Lane and above. And then if you go south, a bit, this is, again, this is the other parcel with the application that came in, that's, we're recommending W1. And then here, you start to get the townhomes in, tenure. If you go a little bit further, you get past there, you get to the elementary school. So just kind of give you an overview. On the other side, it's mostly the industrial, like area with, the, warehouse.
Although, yeah, it's 3/4 of an acre. He's been there for years. He was there before the townhouse.
Well. Yeah, but townhouses are there now.
Now, was there long before that?
They moved in there with them being there.
I'm not sure their historical rights to do one thing or the other. Based on what happens over time.
Well, again, remember the vote doesn't need to be unanimous. It can be, you know,
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if I lived in that neighborhood, what would I wanna see there? And if I had children going to elementary school and I lived in a townhome, I wouldn't want a whole bunch of truck park,
But then.
you know?
There's long before those that were saying, not about this parcel in general.
Mhm,
As what I do, I'm in disagreement with what you're saying,
mhm.
because when a business has been there for years, they're operating under legal non-conforming, and you move in knowing it's there, why would somebody be upset about it? You shouldn't have bought, if you moved to that location and whatever you didn't like was there, I don't really think it's not fair to come in and ask them to change it because they were there first. Now, if there was one truck and all of a sudden there's 50 trucks, I get it. And it's just land use and what you're allowed to do with your
Well,
property.
how would it change what it looks like if it went to C4?
it probably look like the way. It's-
Exactly like that?
Yeah, I think that the.
So it doesn't matter either way.
I think the varying things are ultimately, you know, that doesn't need to be honest, you know, maybe else is valuable. Alright, so all those in favor of, the retaining the W1 recommendation, sorry, W2 recommendation that we said last. Retain. All those in favor of the C4. Credit.
Just waiting for Alyssa's vote. Just so that no one's knows what it could look like in the future. She said W1, can you,
So, Alyssa, our recommendation last time was W2. Are you saying W1 now? Or do you mean W2?
I think she,
Yeah.
we can see, wait, but I think she means W2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so 5, W2, and 3 for.
Yeah, I think it was five for W2, 3 for C4. Okay. And we'll note that and carry it forward to the PAB. All right. I think that closes out then if we want to move on to the draft plan. Could we get do we have a recommendation then or support from the SAC to move the draft zoning map with the things that we discussed and noting the areas of difference that you all have noted? We'll put that all forward to the PAB. Can we get a vote to support doing that?
Motion to. All right, all those in favor of proceeding forward with the draft?
Yep, and Alyssa says, yeah.
All right. If we can move, I'll go very quickly through this plan. I'm not gonna belabor it because you all have, I think, read it and whatever. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. You've seen most of this text before. A lot of it was narratives and the briefing papers. We've had discussions on the strategies. So this is just gonna be high level. If you'll go to
I like those buffers you
next.
gave to the cyclists right there on that bridge.
Nice. So an overview of the organization. The introduction gives that overview of the plan, the reason and the authority for the plan. It lays out the vision that you all adopted at a prior meeting, and it sets the overall direction of the plan. So existing conditions kind of gives the next slide, if you will. It gives the overview of demographics, the economic conditions, and provides a narrative overview of each of the three communities. And I did get comments from some of you when I'd sent that out earlier in the summer, the description of Severn and Glen Burnie and the Millersville portion of Region 3. Those are important for us as we review development projects. It often provides comments or gives us.
Guys, I'm gonna ask for keep the comments down so we can kind of get through the plan, please. Sorry.
It gives us some of the language that we sometimes need to be able to review development projects against those. If you go to the next slide, Andrew, as you're trying to eat. We do have this is new. We have two areas where we're recommending changes to the region plan boundary. On the left is that Queenstown area that I recommended pulling in from Region 1. On the right, it's kind of the southern area of the Brandon Woods Business Park. It's, for whatever reason, part of Region 1, or it's part of Region 3, but we're recommending send it to Region 1, consistent with the rest of Brandon Woods Business Park. So that would take effect with the adoption of this plan, but we've coordinated our recommendations in these areas with the Region 1 team. If you go to the next slide, please. There are 4 primary chapters: natural environment, built environment, healthy communities, healthy economy. So the natural environment gives that overview of the issues and natural resources to be protected. Next slide, built environment. This is the largest chapter, and that makes sense, being focused on land use. We get into land use and zoning, climate change, sea level rise. We have some maps that are still to be created, the transportation. So I'm going to highlight a couple of things in particular. If you'll go to the next slide, this is kind of a big piece. We discussed earlier the holding capacity numbers with you all. We did have our GIS team rerun those holding capacity numbers, and they tweaked some of the inputs that go into that modeling, hopefully to make it a little bit more accurate. But we had originally said that there was not a deficit in the existing zoning of capacity to accommodate housing as it's projected over the 20-year time frame. This rerun of the holding capacity now does show that there is a deficiency of about, I don't have it written down here, but I can't read. There's a difference of about
2,949.
Thank you. Yeah, so this rerun of the holding capacity, it actually did show that we have a deficiency in the zoning, but what it doesn't capture is some key areas, including Marley Station Mall, the Arundel Mall area, that new MXD area out on Marley Neck. So I'm kind of calculating some figures on how much how many residential units could be accounted for in those areas, and add that. And I think that would bring that number down a good bit. It may not bring it down completely. If you'll go to the next slide, though, the chapter includes the development policy area and plan land use changes that we've discussed. It doesn't include the zoning map. That has to be a separate piece from this. This is a policy document. The zoning is going to be a separate bill as it goes to council. The last two chapters, they're a lot shorter than either of the first two. The healthy communities focuses on parks, aging, disabilities, public health, schools, etc. There is a section that describes the school redistricting that is going on. And then the healthy economy section gets into a lot of the work that the Economic Development Corporation is doing and includes information on the Sustainable Community Program, commercial revitalization areas. These are things that we talked about briefly here. And we do have some dedicated text that focuses on Marley Station Mall, 7409 B&A Boulevard, these kind of redevelopment areas that we talked about previously. If you'll go to the next slide, please. The final section, the implementation section, this is kind of the most important. We have some example strategies to indicate how those may or may not be implemented. And then this implementation matrix that had all of the strategies. And I appreciate all of you looking at the strategies and filling out that survey. I'm glad that you all did. We got support for all of the strategies as they are. I will, you all gave some good feedback. Some of it's wordsmithing that I'm just going to say that we can incorporate. There was a comment, potentially a new strategy that might be needed related to invasive cleanup. We do have that covered by, I can't remember who made that comment. Was that you? That is covered under one of our countywide strategies currently, so hence it didn't get repeated. There were some comments about some strategies that may need some more info. So I'm going to take a look at the narrative description and add that in if we need to do that. And there was one piece, a couple of you mentioned Marley Station Mall, I think in the in strategies about the village center. I do want to ask you, do we want to, my recommendation, I think, is maybe to add a specific strategy that calls for a collaborative master plan effort for Marley Station Mall that, and I can word this, that it be collaborative with the site's owners, community stakeholders. I know at least two of you commented on that. So I'm going to make that recommendation that we add a strategy that addresses that.
Yeah.
I think that was it. Kristen, you had a comment that I'm going to reach out to you because I didn't understand your comment, but it looked in depth. So look from, I just didn't have a chance to do that before, and I apologize. Well, I'll give it back to you. But otherwise, I think with some tweaks based on your comments, we'll put forward the strategies as they are in that matrix. And then this wasn't in the plan. This would be in the appendix, but just to let you know what's coming. We'll have a table like what's on the right that outlines all of it'll just focus on planned land use changes, but corresponding to the zoning changes that we talked about. And then there will be zoning tables that look like this that reflect your decision, our decision, and then as we go forward, the PAB and council decisions on each thing. That's it. That's the plan in a nutshell. That was rapid. Are there questions, comments, points of discussion that you want to go over?
So who's going to see this last part that you're showing us? The draft plan you're just showing. Who's going to see it? Well, all this that you just, the Region 3 plan right there.
That is what we'll send forward to the Planning Advisory Board.
Okay.
And then they will, just like you all have advised on it, you've made comments that we're going to incorporate into it. They're going to make comments as well that will be incorporated, and then it goes to the council. So,
who's on that PAB? Just kind of curious.
There are what, 7 on the PAB?
Yes, there's one that represents
Each council district, right?
Yeah. There might be a vacancy.
Yeah.
Are those also like citizens or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have intense work. Y'all think y'all have it bad. It is so intense for them at times.
How long is there? There's a lot of information to.
They've got all they've got all the regions, all 9.
Is it like a month long?
Yeah, it goes for a while, and they do budget. It's a lot.
They'll meet, we'll brief them in September, and then they'll have a hearing in each of the regions. And then they'll deliberate separately on each. It'll go from September through November.
Volunteers, we were all together on 3 and 9. Is it possible for us to see their recommendations as well, their recommended plans?
Yeah, it'll all be going to the PAB at the same time. Yeah. Yes.
What is this evening our deadline for any additional comments on the draft, or do we have any other window?
I mean, very, very,
Okay.
very
No.
soon. Is it like tomorrow, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this would be your last meeting, and if you're comfortable with that race to the end that I just gave you in that very brief overview, you've looked at everything. If you're comfortable with us incorporating your comments as we've received them, if there's anything more that you need to discuss tonight, please do so. Otherwise, I would appreciate a vote to send the plan to the PAB with some of the comments incorporated that we got from you all.
Yes, excellent job. I motion to move it.
Okay, moved, do we have a second? Moved and seconded to move it forward, pending corrections or additions.
How do we find out information about, I'm sorry. Sure. How do we find out what happens to all of it over time?
So you'll follow the process, it'll go to the PAB, it'll all continue to be a public process, they'll hold public hearings, and in fact, kind of takes me to,
I still got the motion.
Yeah. So let's do a vote. So all those in favor of the motion and second.
And Alyssa agrees to, yeah, she also mentioned, first recommendations to the board by the PAB.
thank you. So yeah, getting into what's coming up next, September 18th is our, we're doing a briefing on the general region plan process, and the other 2 regions will also give their overview of their individual plans. Then for us, we'll have a dedicated night, October 9th, and we'll have a public hearing. That's going to be here or Glen Burnie at the Hine Building. So we'll get you information on that if you want to participate in that.
PAB hearing will be here on what day for our region?
That's October 9th, yeah. That's at the Hine Building. And
The one on September 18th, this is Chesapeake. Yeah, Chesapeake Group.
It'll also be virtual.
Yeah.
If you want to attend that one.
yeah. And then we anticipate that this is all kind of anticipated. We anticipate that they'll open the public record on October 9th. They could, I think, potentially open it at the September meeting, correct? So this is anticipated at this point, that they would open the record October 9th for public comment, close October 23rd, and then they would deliberate and make a recommendation on November 20th. So that's how we see this playing out. And then county council, I'm anticipating going to council probably in February of 2025. So in a nutshell, that's what I anticipate for the rest of this. So we did have the vote, y'all approved.
A big sigh of relief.
I appreciate it. We do. Let's do this. One other thing, we didn't approve the meeting notes from the last meeting. I found out we can do this by email and we will put together the notes from tonight's meeting. We'll send that to you by email and just take the vote
Like it.
that way.
That way we can get both.
I mean.
Yeah, I can send it.